So you've raised over 214,000 or so via crowdfunding.
Yeah.
What is it about you where people just want to give you money, Jay?
People love me. I mean, I know it's I joke, but I'm also kind of serious. So I think one of the major things that set me up for crowdfunding success was doing my filmmaking channel. Like, not, you know, I'm not saying it's not necessarily directly like all the, you know, filmmakers came in and gave all that money, because that's not what it was. But it on one hand, it really gave me the confidence to do a crowdfunder. I'm much better on camera now. You know, it's like when I started doing that, it was very, like, you know, kind of awkward and quiet, and I had no interest in being in front of the camera. And through doing that channel, like, it gave me confidence. I could speak well. I think my pitch videos for both my projects were really good, you know, and they featured me pretty heavily. And I do think, at least initially, for the first crowdfunder, which was Craving, like, I think a lot of the initial donations did come in from filmmakers. And crowdfunders, you know, it's a lot like a movie success. A lot of it is dependent on early momentum. And if you can get early momentum going, like, you can really, like, get something up there. You know, like, I think they say on most crowdfunders, like, if you don't raise 30% in the first couple of days, you're dead in the water. You know, on both Craving and A Hard Place, I think I was well over 50% on day one. You know, so, like, that helped. And then another aspect of it is I'm very, like, approachable, and especially online. Like, if somebody comments even just a little, like, hey, it looks cool, you know, thank you very much, you know, and I'm genuine, and I respond to them. And, you know, I spend time, every single person that donates, I send a thank you, even if it's just one of the dollar donations. Like, I'm very, at least as many as I can. It gets overwhelming sometimes, but I try to respond to everyone in a genuine manner. And what the really cool thing about crowdfunding that I honestly didn't anticipate or expect, like, you build friendships out of it. Like, I've made lifelong friends from people that have donated to my movies or been a part of them. And, like, that was just great. And the other thing is, for both my projects, and again, not to sound like an egomaniac, but they were exciting projects. You know, they were projects that people wanted to be a part of. You know, like, this sounds cool. Like, I want to be a part of this, or, you know, I want to do a producer credit, or I want to act in it for a minute, or have a cameo, and, like, people, or I just want to support it. I want a Blu-ray. And also one of the other tricks for crowdfunding is, and it goes contrary to some people's, you know, beliefs, because a lot of people think, you know, it's kind of an underdog thing, and people want to support the underdog, and they want to, you know, give to the struggling artists. People want to be a part of things that look like they're going to happen. People want to be a part of the winning team, you know, and that is what it is. If you have an exciting project, and I have a track record of finishing projects, before I ever did a crowdfunder, I made, you know, almost 20 movies, and I've never not finished a movie. So that in and of itself is a huge plus, because there's so many crowdfunders that they never get made, they take the money and run, they don't fulfill their perks, you know, or whatever it is, you know. So I think those things gave me a huge leg up in it. And, you know, it's one of the same reasons that I've had success in, you know, marketing and distributing my films over the last 4 years. I know a lot of filmmakers find self-promotion like a dirty word. They don't want to do it. I've grown to enjoy it, and I'm good at it. And the crowdfunding was a big part of that.
And you do it in a way that just watching your channel and also getting feedback from other filmmakers, it's where you want to sort of listen to what you have to say, and you feel like, okay, this guy's being transparent, and he's just sort of just telling it like it is. And so it's enjoyable to listen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another big component of crowdfunding is, like, and I think the same thing can be said for just putting out a movie. You know, your audience or your supporters, however you want to look at it, like, they need to get something out of it. You know, and that can be as simple as entertainment, but it can be education. Another thing I do when I'm running a crowdfunder is, you know, I do, you know, not every day usually the campaign, but every other, once every 3, I do little live streams and, like, tell people how it's going, and I talk about what I'm doing. Like, I'm not sitting here like secretively, like, you know, this is the secret sauce and I'm not going to tell anyone. Like, I talk to people about the stuff I do. Like, one major component, if you're going to run a successful crowdfunder and raise, you know, 5 or 6 figures, like, one of the things is upsells. And, you know, like, that sounds very, you know, salesy and, you know, like marketing and like, I might get you in there and sell you something else. And it sounds, you know, it sounds, I don't want to say shifty, but it's, you know, it doesn't sound like, you know, artist stuff. You know, so like filmmakers have a aversion to that. But, you know, you get somebody, you know, like, you know, I do sell producer credits, and I don't have a problem with it. You know, I usually save my chief producer credits for the, you know, the people that are actually, you know, creatively making the movie, but I'll sell associate producers or co-producers. So I will bring in, you know, I'll sell a associate producer credit for $350. Right, and then I have a, you know, $1,000 co-producer credit that, you know, has different perks with it. But if I get someone that gets that associate producer credit for $350, I'll contact them, and I'm very genuine. I establish a dialogue first, and, you know, thank you so much, you know, and we'll have maybe 1 or 2 back and forth emails or messages on Facebook, and then I'll hit that person up and I'll be like, hey, we're doing something kind of wild. We're doing an upgrade, like, you know, you can, for another $350, you know, you can get this $1,000 credit, you know, and that sounds very used car salesman, but it's sales, and it works. Like a good 30-40% of what we raised is from upsales, you know, so that is part of a crowdfunder. So whenever I talk to a filmmaker, like, hey, I'm going to do a crowdfunder, I talk about things like that. And I'd be like, look, if you are not comfortable with upselling people, or you're not comfortable with doing producer credits or Cameo acting credits, or, you know, whatever it is, you don't have to necessarily do all 3, but you have to do something. Because the thing that I found about crowdfunders, people have this misconception that people are just going to want to just support their project. You know, they're just going to, your project looks great, I love you, I'm just going to support it. And it's just not the case. There are some people that do that, but for most of us, that's just not the case. The people have to be getting something tangible out of it. And there are people that, like an associate producer credit, whether they're trying to build a career or not, that's an exciting thing for them. Or, you know, like the acting credit things, which I know can be controversial. You know, I don't mind doing like little, you know, small roles for crowdfunding. And, you know, like a lot of these people, especially in the horror movie realm, they're convention heads. So they go out to these horror conventions and they spend, you know, $500 or $1,000 or, you know, thousands of dollars to go to the convention and take pictures with, you know, these actors. And then you put some of these actors in your movie, and for that same amount of money, they come and they can actually be in a scene with that actor. And that's exciting. And if you work it in a certain way, it doesn't have to hurt the movie, because, you know, a lot of filmmakers, they're worried, oh, they're going to come in, they're not really actors, they're going to hurt the movie. You have to tailor those things, those roles for non-actors, you know, or for inexperienced actors, and sometimes, you know, I've had some of them that actually turned out to be really good actors. I did A Hard Place, and we had maybe 16 of them. And it was these, some of the characters in that were, you know, farmhands. And, you know, I cast a bunch of them, and I expanded some of those roles because they were so fun and they were so good. And the other thing I do, if somebody's going to get an acting role in a movie, and I always am clear with them, this is an audition, you know, you paid the money, you got the thing. But, like, can you do me a favor and put, you know, something on camera for me? Like, I'll give them some sides or something to read. I figure out what their, you know, like, ability is, you know, what might fit them better, and then I assign the roles based on that. And I've personally had good luck with it. And if you're going to do something like that, you realize that a crowdfunding movie is different from making a regular movie, you know, from making, you know, your own, I don't know, passion project. You know, there are certain things you have to roll with, and that's one of them. And it's something that I like it. I mean, I think Craving and A Hard Place are the best 2 movies I've ever made, and they're crowdfunding movies.
And those are narrative films, not your documentaries.
Yes, yeah. So I, from doing the docs, at a certain point, you know, because my goal was always to make narrative films. And I liked doing the docs a lot, and I was really burned out on narratives I had a failure called Campus, really bad experience. I think we talked about that last time. And I wasn't going to make narratives anymore. But after about 2, maybe 3 years of doing the docs, I started getting the itch. And to be perfectly honest, it wasn't just creative. Some of it was ego. Like I did miss the attention that comes with it as a narrative director. Because like doing the docs, I'm starting to do more on camera with them, but initially, like I'm not front and center. And I wasn't even taking directing credit on most of those. I would produce and edit them, and I would give my, like Jeremy Nori, he does a lot of shooting for me. And he slowly actually did transition into a real director on them, but initially he was just shooting them, and I just was giving him the credits because I didn't necessarily want them. But I got to a point where like I missed that attention, and I missed like I love documentaries, but there's something really, really special about collaborating with an actor and a DP together on set, and creating something that you wrote from the ground up. Like there's something really exciting about that, and I just really missed it. But in my past, I had directed a ton of narratives, and I used to do them really fast. 5-day shoots sometimes less. $50,000 budgets down to like 10 or 5. And now I don't want to make movies like that anymore. Like I don't want to do it quite that fast. But it's more about money, and not necessarily money in my pocket. It's about being able to compensate a crew fairly and at a livable wage. Like, I'm not gonna make, because I don't care what anyone says, you can't make a $10,000 movie and pay a proper crew proper wages. You can't, it is impossible. It's either gonna be favors or you're gonna have a smaller crew. If you want a full crew, script supervisor, AD, everything, sound guy, the right kind of camera crew, an operator, AC, a swing. If you want all these things and you're paying them a legal wage, and have enough time to shoot a 90-minute feature, you can't do that in 5 days, or on $10,000. At least I can't. If people can do it, or their states they can do it, more power to them. I can't, and I want to be a little more comfortable on set as far as how much time I have, and the scale of the movies. I'm like, this also might sound a little egocentric, but I don't have any desire anymore to do 3 characters in a room, drama or thriller features anymore that have, just like single location, or, I want to go to multiple locations, and I want to have a bunch of people, and I want it to have a scale. And I like working in horror and action horror, so I want action, and that requires stunts, and, it requires special effects. And, I kind of, with Craving, it was the first one, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do another movie that's, under $100,000. So I raised 70, close to 80 in crowdfunding for Craving, and then I did another maybe 15 myself, and then we raised another like 10 or so traditionally. And then A Hard Place, we raised 128 through crowdfunding, 120 through the initial campaign, and then another 8 through a finishing funds campaign, and then raised another 30 on that. And to be quite frank, that wasn't enough money. That was a tough shoot. So I just don't want the next one I'm doing is triple that budget. I'm not saying they'll all be there, but at least at $100,000, I'm not going to do any cheaper than that anymore. And I'm not going to do them multiple times a year like I used to. Now it's tops. I could see doing 2 maybe, but I try to do 1 every year and a half.
And with crowdfunding, did you take a class?
I did take a crowdfunding class. So back in 2017 or 16, I can't remember when we decided to do the movie, I was going to do the campus. And there was a period where I was considering crowdfunding it. And there was a guy named Justin Giddings, the Kickstarter guy.
Yeah.
Still around. And he was doing a really like thorough crowdfunding class. And I think it was around $2,000 at the time. And I had just met kind of an angel investor for a different company, Gas Money Pictures, that I was running with another guy. And he put a lot of money into that, into gear and stuff like that. It was an animation thing to get it started. And I asked him if he would, front the $2,000 for this class. So he did, and I took the class. One of the best things I've ever done in my life. Because crowdfunding at its core is marketing. Like you are trying to get people to go to a place and, you know, take a monetary action. You know, it's really not any different to get someone to go to a crowdfunding page and buy a perk than it is to try to get somebody to Amazon to rent a movie. So he, like, step by step basically tells you how to get somebody to go to this place and do a thing. You know, so like he would talk about like social media posts and how you word the social media posts and how you interact with people. And it was this, like, it was video after video. I mean, I think it was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours worth of material. And to this day, like that is kind of the base of my own marketing thing. Like I've done 30, 40 minute, you know, marketing videos on my channel that are probably about 20, 25% like directly from that, you know? So like, and that is honestly where my entrepreneurial spirit was born. You know, like, oh, like you can do this thing, and Justin's very affable, and you know, like he was good at it. If you actually follow and execute on what he's saying, it can be very effective, and it opened up the world to me.
Where does a crowdfunding campaign begin for you?
So you know, it begins with an idea, but like I said, a crowdfunding movie, in my opinion, you know, for me, it needs to be a specific kind of movie. You know, and we'll talk about genre in a minute, but we'll forget about genre for a second. And it needs to be like you have to have enough roles to do some supporting roles or some, you know, cameo roles for people. It needs to be something that is going to be exciting to a group of people that you have access to. So for me, a lot of the people that I talk with are either filmmakers or they're horror people. Not that I've just done exclusively horror, but I have a pretty strong footprint in horror. So for me, it had to be a horror movie, and filmmakers were part of my core audience, which most people will tell you, and they're not wrong, filmmakers are not a crowdfunding audience. Don't market to filmmakers. So just because I'm saying I did it, guys, don't go out there and market to filmmakers, because unless you have something of value to give them.
Okay, why? Sorry to interrupt.
Because filmmakers are doing their own thing. I'm not saying we're all selfish, but none of us are, most of us anyway, are not rich. We're not super wealthy. We have enough money to invest in our projects, but we're concentrating on our stuff. We're trying to get money, scrambling, hustling for ours. We can't give to yours anything that's going to be meaningful, you know, beyond a few dollars, you know. So, but that said, like I have a really strong, you know, background in marketing and distribution. So like one of the things I did on A Hard Place, the second one, because I'd raised, you know, the 80 for Craving, I offered a crowdfunding masterclass, you know, so, and that was, I forget what we charged for it, like $2.99 or something, but I sold a lot of them, you know, and basically I sat down and I did a video, just like videos on my YouTube channel, because I did specifically for that. And I did have a crowdfunding consultant on both Craving and A Hard Place. And he has raised over a few $1 million collectively on his projects. So he did half of it and I did half. I think he did about 45 minutes on it, or maybe an hour. And then I did an hour on crowdfunding, and I did an hour on marketing distribution. And filmmakers get this. And also then the producer credits come in really strongly that with filmmakers, you know, because there's people out there that they're getting started. They want those credits. They want to be a part of it. They want to build some credits. So you can get some associate or co-producers from that.
What was his name?
Abel Berry.
Okay.
Abel Berry. He is a fantastic crowdfunding consultant. I mean, I owe a lot of the success to him. Like, I mean, he helped me. He helped me craft the campaigns. You know, like taught me a lot of the little, like the upsales thing. I learned from him. You know, and he's a very good, honest guy, and he takes a very reasonable, you know, amount. You know, you can do. I don't know exactly what his upfront thing is, because I did a back end, but you know, he takes a little back end fee for it, and you know, gives really valuable advice. But it's just like anything. It's all about execution. People can give you the best advice in the world, but if you're not executing or you're refusing to do it, like one of his biggest frustrations is, you know, he'll tell filmmakers, hey, you got to do this, this, and this, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that, and you know, they're not gonna succeed, you know. So.
Or is it like appearing on camera, or what?
Yeah,
what's the thing
whether
they
it's
squeeze you?
that or it's I'm not gonna go to someone that just gave me $50 and ask them for another $50. And like I do understand that mindset, but the thing that like filmmakers need to wrap their heads around with crowdfunding is like most of the people that give substantial amounts, you know, like past the $100, like when you're talking into 500 or thousands, these are people that are not usually broke. These are people with disposable income, and they're doing stuff like this in lieu of their vacation or, you know, whatever it is, you know, but they have it, you know, like people, it's not other filmmakers and it's not other, you know, broke people like that are substantially donating to them. So like it's not, you know, wrong or, you know, bad to do that. And you're giving them the choice. You're like, hey, you can do this, you're not. And I always word my things like, hey, if you're not into this, if you know you don't want to do it, you can't swing it, no problem, you know. But a lot of filmmakers don't want to do that. A lot of filmmakers want to draw a line in the sand and, you know, claim artistic integrity and not do the producer credits. And that's fine, I understand that too. There's a lot of producers out there that feel it cheapens the job. And that's a valid point. I wouldn't argue that. But for me, I don't necessarily agree. I don't think we live in a world of, you know, black and white morality like that. And for me, it's not wrong. And I will continue to do it regardless of what, you know, someone else might say. And I feel the same way about the acting credits.
Has anyone challenged you on that?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a contingent of people out there, whether it be actors or filmmakers, that get very like vocal and angry, and they'll follow you. They'll you know, comment on posts, and they'll try to put posts on your crowdfunding campaign. And usually, what I found, and whether it's crowdfunding or anything else, I find usually when you're getting hate, either from anyone in the business, whether it's actors or other filmmakers, it has to do with some amount of jealousy. Like, you're doing this thing, or I wanted this thing, I want to audition for you, but I can't audition for you because you're selling all your roles. And I always tell people, like, I'm not selling all my roles. I have a few specific roles that I put aside for this. And if it wasn't for that, these roles wouldn't exist. Like, you're not, no one's taking your job. It wasn't going to be a job, you know, and if those roles don't get taken, I take them out, you know, like they're not there. I'm not hiring anyone for those. They're made specifically for the crowdfunder, you know, so I personally don't have an issue with it, but there is a lot of, you know, and you know, like, especially with actors, it's a tough game, you know, like, it's a tough game. And when, you know, you perceive that, everybody is, you know, buying their roles and there's nothing for me, you can get angry and you can lash out. And like, I get it. So like, I don't get mad about it, but I don't engage with it anymore. I just, you know, delete or block the person and move on.
I mean, Raymond Chandler, back in his day of writing these different stories about, you know, the mean streets of LA, you know, people would buy their way into different government offices in the 30s, and it was something that was done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, people have always bought roles. You know, before crowdfunding ever existed, you know, producers were bringing in their girlfriends, or, you know what I mean? And they're basically, you know, like buying, or people would straight out say, hey, here's $30,000, an investor. I am putting, you know, $1 million into this, and this is my girlfriend. And, you know, maybe it's not one-to-one buying the role, but they're buying the role. That person has inherited that role and is not, you know, being compensated, you know, for the role, or maybe they are, but, you know, I mean, there's not a lot of difference. And it's producer credits, same thing. You know, they used to make the joke that, you know, we give out associate producer credits instead of raises to secretaries, you know, so.
How much time do you spend planning out the campaign before you launch it?
Okay, so planning a crowdfunder is not a simple thing. A successful crowdfunder. So they're in crowdfunding, just like movies, you know, there's different levels of them. And if you're making a backyard movie for $2,000, there can be a less amount of planning. If you're doing a crowdfunder for $1,000 or $500 or, you know, whatever it is, under 10, maybe you can get away and not do so much planning. If you're trying to do crowdfunders on the level that I am, you know, $50,000 to 100 or over, it takes planning. So I typically spend about 90 days like setting up a campaign. So like I'll decide what the project is, you know, scripts written, all that. I'm not counting that in that time. And then, okay, I'm going to crowdfund this. I pick the date, I'm going to crowdfund it, 90 days, you know, maybe a little bit more before that, I start creating materials. So one of the major things that you need to run a successful crowdfunder is you need a lot of material, a lot of things to post. So like you'll see a lot of unsuccessful campaigns, they post the same trailer, the same poster, the same text over and over and over and over again and wonder why they're not getting interaction. They wonder why no one's donating to their campaign. They're not creating anything new. So I start at that 90-day, I start with art. So I'm a fair graphic designer. Sometimes I can create a really nice image. If I can create it myself, I will for free. If I have to go to a graphic designer, I'll do that. I try to come up with 5 like hero posters that are high quality, you know, or as high quality as I can get. And then, you know, like from those, using those elements, I'll create a bunch of other like supplementary art. I'll create the thumbnails for the perks, you know, like the art for the pages. You know, I'm going to end up creating a Facebook page for the thing. So, you know, Facebook banner size, stuff like that. And then even more importantly, I start crafting my social media post. So when the campaign's going, I will post organically as well. That's very important. But when you're in the heat of a campaign, especially if you're in the doldrums of the campaign, so like in a 30-day campaign, you're gonna have a week somewhere in there where you're just not raising hardly anything, and it can be depressing, and you get in these negative mindsets, and it's hard to post. It's hard to write a positive social media post when you're like, nobody's giving to my campaign. So it's tough. So what I do way in advance, you know, say my campaign is gonna be 28 days, which is about what I run them now. I make sure that I have at least one post pre-written for every day of that campaign. Like, and I make a little like Word document and I put them in there, and you know, and I don't try to do it all at once, because if you try to barrel through it, you'll start, you know, you'll get burned out, or you'll get lazy, or the quality of them suffers. So when the inspiration hits, I'll oh, this would be good, and instead of posting it, I'll save it, you know. So then I'll also, you know, I have my pitch video, and like, you know, I'll come up with a couple of variations of that. Like usually my pitch videos, I try to keep them at 90 seconds to 2 minutes. That's me. There's successful people that do longer, but I like them short. But then I'll do, you know, 30-second cut downs of them, 15-second cut downs of them. I'll do vertical video versions of them, and I'll have all of that set up way in advance. And I'll also create memes. So, you know, whatever the popular memes are, I'll start, you know, like just crafting it for the movie, you know, like, you know, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but, you know, I'll do a meme and relate it to my movie, you know, like, you know, or, you know, one of the babies looking really happy, and it'll be like, we have new crowdfunding, new perks today, or, you know, something like that. Free perk Friday, whatever it is. And I'll have a bunch of those. So by the time that campaign rolls around, I have multiple posts I can make every day of that campaign that I do not have to create on the fly, that are just there. So that's what takes the time. And then the other thing that you need to do, and this is another thing like people don't like to hear, but a certain percent of what you raise, it does need to kind of come from like people you know, like people you already know. People, like before day one, you should have, like, in my opinion, I've heard different amounts from different people, but I think you should have about 30% of it prompt. 30% of your goal should be pretty much pre-promised. You know, so I go to, and I don't believe in DMing strangers and asking for money, like on Facebook. I don't believe in it. There's people that do it, and they do it successfully. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with that. But I will, like maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the campaign, I will start going out to my friends or people that I'm like comfortable saying, hey, on day one of my campaign, can you put in $5, you know, or whatever it is, you know, because another thing that's really important, like I said, it's momentum. But it's not just the amount of money you raise, it's the number of people that are coming into your campaign. So like on day one, if you can get, 100 or 150 backers, even if they're only coming in for small amounts, just that traffic coming to that page is going to put you on Indiegogo's trending page. They're going to push you in the algorithm. You're going to get more people in. It builds momentum. And it's another way, it's kind of a cute little trick. Like say, like on your first day, you're not really raising that much money, but you get a lot of people. So you focus on the positive. So instead of saying, you have a $25,000 goal and you've raised whatever, $4,000, which doesn't sound bad, but it's not super, or we'll say less, we'll say $2,000. Doesn't sound super exciting. But so instead of saying I did $2,000 of 20, you say, we just passed 150 backers, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, and it makes it sound exciting, and then you have both things to talk about if you're doing better on the other side too. So like on day one, and it's important, and people think it's bragging, but it's important to jump in there and be like, and celebrate your victories. And man, we just passed 100 backers in the first 2 hours. We just raised $25,000 on our first day, and throw a screenshot of the amount, like the Indiegogo page. We raised, I think on Hard Place, it was like somewhere between 16 and 22,000 on day one. So I'm like, look, we're 50% to our goal. There it is. And that excites people. And I found throughout the campaign, those are good organic posts. Every time you reach a goal stone, even if it's only 1,000 more, hey, we just reached $21,000. We just hit 22, or, whatever it is. But having all those things kind of in advance as much as possible is essential to a good campaign. You need to have a variety of content to post.
So even if you don't want to appear, we've talked about being seen as egotistical or whatever.
Yes.
You need to learn how to sort of toot your own horn when it comes to your crowdfunding.
Yes, you do. Yeah, it is something that didn't come easy to me initially. But what I found, if people like you, if people are rooting for you, like they like those posts. Like, yes, there are gonna be haters that are gonna look at that. No, you're this guy, screw him. But you just can't worry about that. You got to worry about, the people that actually care. And it's the same thing for life. You worry about the people that you are affecting positively and they're affecting you positively, and everybody else you just got to let that go. But yeah, they absolutely will. Yeah.
Jay, how come you've chosen Indiegogo over all of the other crowdfunding platforms that are out there?
So initially, I chose Indiegogo because, and I think this has changed now. I think Kickstarter does the same thing now, but back in the day anyway, Indiegogo had an option where you can set your goal, but you can keep what you make. Whereas like Kickstarter, it was an all or nothing. And I think that may have changed now. There may be an option on Kickstarter to do the same thing, but at least initially that was what made Indiegogo exciting. Because I'm like, if I set a $20,000 goal for a movie and I don't quite get there with the crowdfunder, because of experience I have, I know I could find that money traditionally if I have to. I don't necessarily like want to, or which I'll get to that point in a minute. But so the second reason that I started going with Indiegogo is it has a very like robust and supportive like horror community, and I was crowdfunding horror movies, so I tended to go with that. And Abel, who crowdfunded, consulted for me. That was also what he was most familiar with, so that's why I decided it. And then I did the second one with them because I had done the first one with them, and so like I'm pretty much a brand loyal person. So if I have success with the thing, I'm probably going to stay with it. Yeah.